coming to get you, Barbara.
Ever played Skin the Cat?
Someone's in the back seat! Tell me where you are, John!
Wolfman's got narc!
Hi guys, my name is Barry and welcome back to the channel. And as you can see, we've got Braden Timmons with us today. How are you doing, Braden?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you so much for having me on again, man. I know that we were chatting off stream here saying that it's been a long time coming, getting back on here, but I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. I'm glad you can come on. Obviously, Braden is, I didn't realize how far you were away from me. You're 8 hours behind me, Braden. So is it 5 p.m. there?
5 p.m.
5 p.m. Yeah, so it's 1 a.m. in the morning here in sunny Glasgow, Scotland. But I've got some. Have you ever tried Iron Brew?
No.
Do you want to hear a fun fact?
Yes,
before we
I
get
do.
into Halloween. My volume just went up. Coca-Cola is the #1 drink in every country in the world, apart from Scotland. Ours is Iron Brew. Interesting.
That is very interesting. I did not know that.
Yeah, you should try it if you ever find it.
You know what? Is that a beer? Is that what that is?
No, it's like soda, like Coca-Cola.
Oh, interesting. And yeah, the color's a little bit different. The color looks like cream soda. Is that what that is, or is it?
No, it's nothing. It's nothing you've ever tasted. It doesn't taste like anything else but Iron Brew.
Okay, so it's got its own distinct flavor to it.
It does, yeah. If anyone in the chat that's from the UK will probably know exactly what Iron Brew is. It's made in Scotland only though. But if you buy it in England or Wales or Ireland or anything, it's a little bit more expensive.
Okay.
And if you bought it in the US, it's probably going to be very expensive because it's a secret ingredient that nobody ever knows about apart from people in Scotland.
Interesting. Yeah. If I ever find myself over in Scotland, I will have to try that out. I hope to visit Scotland, man. I've heard it's a beautiful, beautiful country. So
it is, yeah. The cities are not that great because they're kind of like the US, just really built up and busy.
Yeah.
But the outside the cities, it's really nice. My cousin's from Florida, and she comes over and she specifically buys a lot of Iron Brew.
Okay.
And then she takes some back to the US with her as well. So if you ever come over, it's Iron Brew. That's what you need to get.
Interesting. Yeah, I will have to do that if I visit, or I should say when I visit, because I do plan on coming over eventually. So
definitely, I think everyone should come to Scotland. So as we've just started, again, thanks for coming on, Braden. It's good to have you on again. So for the guys who are here just now, we'll build ourselves up to this, but what we're going to be talking about today is we'll talk a little bit about Halloween H20. I know it's not everyone's favorite, but I know that Braden's got a very special place for Halloween H20, and he'll explain why. So we'll talk about H20, Braden's inspiration from H20 to his fan films. You've obviously got the Haddonfield Nightmare, and then you've obviously got the last Nightmare that you're going to be bringing out as well. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And because obviously Halloween is in the spotlight again, then we can have a little chat about the latest news on Halloween and how we feel about it, and maybe even talk a little bit about Halloween Ends. I know we spoke about it off stream there, but maybe because we've not really done a video about Halloween Ends together, so maybe have a little chat about that as well. And if anyone's in the chat at this point, we can kind of talk to the guys in the chat as well. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, sounds great to me.
Yeah, perfect. So just saying hello to some of the guys that have come in so far. We've got Chud's Corner. How you doing? Lamontra Gillard, is it?
I think so.
If I butchered your name. Antonis Andriotis. Hey, Braden.
Oh, Antonis.
Oh, Antonis, sorry. Again, I'm really sorry. We've got Wayne Turner. We've got Scott Walker. And we've got Big Al. How you doing, Big Al? Yeah, I'm burning the midnight oil, Al. David Effrey is in the house. What's up? And we've got DJ Ja the God. So thanks for coming in, guys, and watching the video. So first of all, I want to talk about H20. Now, you'll probably know yourself, Braden, H20 is one of my favourite movies in the franchise. In fact, it's my second favorite in the franchise, just behind the original. That's how much I love Halloween H20, and that's why I kind of follow your stuff up with regards to your fan films, because you've done something unique, and that is bring us something after Halloween H20. I know we already got official Halloween Resurrection, and that didn't go too well. And I always wondered myself, what could Halloween, a sequel to H2, be like with characters from H2 in it, like John? And you've obviously thought about that yourself, and then you've given us your fan films. But before we get into your fan films, H2O, what made you be a fan of H2O to begin with?
Yeah, so Halloween H20 is one of those movies that I watched a lot growing up. I was watching the franchise continuously growing up, and this is pre-Rob Zombie Halloween movies. So I was literally in middle school when Rob Zombie's Halloween hit theaters. So, I was kind of growing up throughout the 2000s, and I just started getting into horror movies and everything. And Halloween H2O was one of those that I saw at the video store, and I rented, and I ended up loving the movie. And then I watched it countless times as a kid. And it was really that Halloween 2 was the first Halloween movie I watched. Same thing with Friday the 13th. I saw the sequels before I did the first movies. But just H2O, it's a movie that I adored as a kid. And then I watched it in my teenage years, and I was like, I still really like this movie. And then it was really after I saw Halloween 2018 that, I was watching, or I should say before I saw Halloween 2018, I was watching all of them leading up to H18. And it was like really there where I was like, okay, at that point, it had been like 6 years since I had seen it last. And I was like, okay, like, let's give H2O a shot. And, I watched it, and still I was like, I remember liking this movie, but I still love the movie. Yes, it has its issues with the mask and how there's like 3 or 4 different masks that are shown on screen throughout the movie, including that awful CGI mask that they decided to use. But I still think that the story's good. I think that it's got yes, it has some of the Scream soundtrack in it, and the Halloween music is very minimal in the movie, but I still think that I like the story. I do like the characters in the movie. I think that Laurie is in an incredibly believable position as to where she could be at in her life, in terms of trying to move on from the events that occurred 20 years prior. But also she's in that same mindset where she's like, could he be coming back? So I think H2O is great from the story perspective to the character perspective. It lacks on Halloween atmosphere a bit, but I do think that it's a damn good. It's one of the better sequels for sure in the franchise.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with everything that you said there. And I think one of the most important aspects about a film, not just a horror film, but any film, is you need to get the right story, and you need to get the right characters in your films. And I think two of the strongest points of H2O is the characters and the story itself. It's so believable. The characters are so believable as well, even to the point of Michael Myers. He's a believable Michael Myers in this. I know some people don't like the Michael Myers. I don't know why, because he's very similar to the original Michael, Nick Castle's Michael. Similar in height, similar in build, the same walk. He walks the same speed as Nick Castle's Michael Myers. So everything's there. But yes, of course, it's got its flaws. It's got the mask issues that people talk about. I think people overemphasize the issues with H2O and use that as an excuse for not liking it. Now, I'm not saying that you're not allowed to not like H2O. Everyone's got an opinion, but I just don't like the opinions of, I don't like Halloween H2O because it's got a CGI mask. And I'm like, come on, it's 1 second of the movie. If that's the reason you don't like the movie, then that's not a great reason. If they go into it and say, I don't like it because it doesn't feel like Halloween, it's too teeny bopper, it feels like Dawson's Creek, then fair enough. That's your opinion, and that's absolutely fine, because it does feel like the teen slashers of the 90s. And I always defend it in that way, because the movie came out in 1998. It is a teen slasher from the late 90s, because that's what movies were like back then. And like with the Scream soundtrack and stuff, it's because it's Marco Beltrami, it's Dimension that brings out the movie. The film is even filmed in the exact same location as Scream 3 at the end of Scream 3. So it's obviously going to feel that way because it's the same studio. So they can't help that. And because Scream was successful, why not do something similar?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah, so there's so many great things about H2O. I can talk about H2O all the time because it is my second favorite in the franchise. Where does it lie on your list again?
I think it's number 3,
Right.
if I remember correctly. I think it's number 3. It's getting very close to bumping up to 2, though, because I think my top 3 is Halloween 78, of course. And then I still think Halloween 2 is right after Halloween. And then I think I got H2O right at the number 3 spot. Who knows? Maybe at the end of this Halloween season, that'll bump up to the number 2 spot because it's been in top 3 for forever though. So
yeah,
that's
the same with me.
Yeah,
I think it's been at number 3 for me for a while, and then after watching the David Gordon Green trilogy, and then going back to all the Halloween movies, and going back to H2O, I think nostalgia plays a big part for me. I think I'm over 10 years older than you. So when I first watched the movie, I was like 14, 15 and just fell in love with it. And I fell in love with that subgenre when I was a kid, like watching Urban Legend, I Know What You Did Last Summer, The Faculty, all those teen slasher movies. And then Halloween H2O being one of them. Not only was Halloween my favorite franchise, but they brought a movie out with the same feeling as the rest of those movies back in the late 90s. So I just automatically loved it. So even when I watch it now, every film I watched from back at then, like I Know What You Did Last Summer and stuff, I still have that same nostalgic feeling for it. So nostalgia does play a part. And I know people say, oh, you can't use nostalgia as a reason to like something. Well, yes, you can, because that's my opinion. That's my feeling. I feel a connection to Halloween H2O. And obviously you've got a big connection to H2O because not only do you love the movie, but you've decided, you know what, I want to do a fan film of it. What made you feel you wanted to do a sequel to H2O and not a sequel to something else?
So it was really when I was researching, back in 2018, I made a completely BS quick short fan film called Halloween Haddonfield Nightmare. It was shot on my smartphone at the time. And I had started rewatching all the movies to do some research on what I wanted to do with a sequel to that. I actually do have that movie on my channel still. It's hidden. And the reason I hid it is because when we started crowdfunding for the Haddonfield Nightmare, people can look up the Haddonfield Nightmare like teaser trailer that we had put together and they could still see that.
Yeah.
And I didn't want people to get confused like that was the quality of what we were trying to make. So I took that off the channel based on the recommendation of my team, and I'm thankful for that. So it's still technically on my channel. I'm debating using it as like a bonus feature on maybe like the Last Nightmare Blu-ray or something like that.
Yeah, that could be idea.
Yeah, so we'll see. Just like to say, hey, this is where we started. It's terrible, but this is one of the first things that we did. But I decided to do it as I was watching the franchise to kind of get some ideas for what was going to be a sequel to that. I was like just looking at I got to H2O and I was just thinking, and I saw John Tate like on screen, and I was like, dude, nobody's ever tried to do anything with that character. Like, and this is a character that I love. So I'm like, okay, like the Haddonfield Nightmare, I'm like, could we develop a story around that? And I was like, could we make that a Halloween H2O sequel? And I texted some of the producers that are producers on the Haddonfield Nightmare now. And I talked to them about it. And I was like, hey guys, what do you guys think of this idea? And I kind of developed I literally that night spent the night getting the outline and the synopsis done. And I pitched it to them and they loved it. So about a week later, we announced that it was going to be a sequel to Halloween H2O, and that's what we were going to set out and do. So,
and that's the rest is history, basically. I remember when you were just starting out the Haddonfield Nightmare, you were thinking about like your cast, and obviously the one you wanted to get right was obviously John Tate. and we were discussing what I wonder what Josh Hartnett's up to these days. Remember?
Yeah.
And we're like, well, maybe we could ask him, see what he's doing, because he wasn't really taking part in Hollywood. Obviously, now he's back in the big time. He's in Oppenheimer, so
Yeah.
and apparently he's going to be in Marvel moving forward as well here. So obviously, Josh Hartnett was off the table there. What's his name? Is it Peter Drurych?
It's Peter Dejuric is how
Jurek,
so
sorry,
it's Dejuric. Yeah,
Is
that's
that
that's how you
Croatian
say
or
his. Yeah, that's how you say his full last name. He doesn't have an accent or anything like that.
No,
so,
no.
Like how he speaks in the movie is how he speaks in real life. So, yeah, man. Like when we were casting the role that I was most picky about was the role of John Tate.
Definitely.
Basically, he needed to represent what John Tate would look like in my eyes 20 something years later after the events of Halloween H20.
Yeah.
So, because the Haddonfield Nightmare takes place 22 years after the events of Halloween H20. So, that was my goal, was to make sure that the person that, we casted looked very much like it could be Josh Hartnett, basically. Believable enough. So when Peter's headshot came across my desk, I literally was like, if this guy can act, he's going to be John Tate. And if he can't act, we might just cast him and work with what we've got, because he looks so damn much like he could be an older version of John Tate that I was like, we can't pass up on this opportunity. There was one other guy that we got a headshot from that looked like he definitely could have passed, but he would have been more aged. Like, he looked just a tad bit older, and I wanted him to look more on the younger side. Like he's like still a young dad trying to figure stuff out after the loss of his wife, which obviously we find out in the movie that Molly isn't around still. So yeah, that was my thought process going into the casting. And the funniest thing is that Peter had no idea who John Tate was when he submitted his headshot for the role. He had no idea. He just saw that he fit the description and submitted his headshot. And then he didn't watch H20 until after we had our entire script read through. And we met with the cast and crew, did our table read and everything. And then Peter went home that night and texted me a screenshot of him watching Halloween H20.
Brilliant.
So yeah, he started doing his research for sure.
Yeah, well, that's good. Well, one thing that you need to get right is, although you're looking for someone who looks similar to Josh Hartnett or similar to what he would look like 22 years later, Josh Hartnett isn't his character. It's obviously John Tate. So not only do you want someone who resembles Josh Hartnett, most importantly, you want someone who would resemble John Tate. And I think one of the strongest things about the whole entire film is the casting for John Tate, because he was believable as John Tate would be. I would imagine if they were doing a Hollywood movie of a sequel to H2, and let's say Josh Hartnett couldn't come back or didn't want to come back, I think someone with Peter's description would fit the bill for even a big Hollywood movie. So I think the casting for it is important, and I think you got it on point, which is, again, it's fantastic. And he done a really good job as well. He's coming back, isn't he, for The Last Nightmare?
Yes.
Yeah.
So him, Kate Kelly as his daughter is back as well. Alice Bosga is going to be back for her best friend, and then Andre McGraw is back as Officer Williams also. They are all so excited to get started. The whole team is really so excited to get started, man. We've got a lot of really fun updates that we've got coming up. So make sure that you guys that are in the chat are following The Last Nightmare on Instagram. It's got an Instagram page. If you type in Last Nightmare movie, it's got a Facebook page. Make sure you guys are staying up to date with it. We've got some exciting stuff up and coming. And so
that'd be good. What I'll do when this chat's finished, I'll be putting all the links down below as well, so that anyone who's watching after the fact, they can just click on all the links down below as well. When you were filming the Haddonfield Nightmare, did you think to yourself, I'm planning on doing a sequel to this? Or did you think, this was done, but I had a good time, let's do another one? What was your thought process?
So initially, the Haddonfield Nightmare was supposed to be one movie. It was during production, we were coming to a close, and we had done some reshoots on some of the scenes already, and our production money was kind of starting to fade away. So we really had to kind of narrow down what we wanted to do. The final scene, like everything with Smith's Grove, was essentially done within like 3 nights. And so that was filmed at the Joliet prison in Joliet, Illinois. And that was a location that we had to pay for. And they run at like $150 per hour, like for filming. So it's like, we're shooting there. And I think that night we were shooting for like 10, the final night we were shooting for like 10 hours. And that was our final night. And we were in there. Like, I think I called action on that final scene where John swings the crowbar at Michaels. I think action was called at like 4 a.m. like on that. So we were really burning the night oil as we were going through to finish that final fight. And apparently, I didn't know this. Apparently, the prison has a cutoff of shooting at 3:30, and we were filming until 5 that night. So, but we got everything done. We got the shots that we needed to at least make something, come together. Because initially, that scene was supposed to go on for a lot longer. That scene was actually supposed to have much more of an epic ending. But again, because our production money was running so low, there's only so much that we can do, So that was when I was just kind of like, okay, let's kind of cut it together and let's see what it looks like. And I said that I wanted to get the shot of the hand moving at the end just to highlight that he can potentially still be alive.
Yeah.
So that's when I was like, okay, we should probably start thinking about doing another one, because something just tells me that people are going to want to see what happens after that shot. And then you've got the breaths that are coming over the screen as you see the Haddonfield Nightmare title come up, and then the credits start. So, I was thinking about that. And there was a few times during the writing process where I was like, okay, if we can't do this, maybe we ought to, do another one. So I had thought about it during the writing process, but it was really during the production process where I was like, okay, we're not going to be able to get all this. So we might as well just, get what we can and just leave a cliffhanger and then do another one. So,
Yeah, that was great. That it's the way it ended. You can put another one out there if everyone's up for it. Anyone who died in the Haddonfield Nightmare, are any of them involved in the film as different characters now or behind the scenes? Is there anyone who you think you can bring back anyway as someone else, or just to help out?
One of the fan favorites that we saw a lot about was the Sheriff Baker, which he died at the end of Haddonfield Nightmare. He's going to be needed for one night, and it's for his body, because the last nightmare takes place right where the Haddonfield Nightmare left off. It all takes place in the exact same night of the first film. So literally the next shot, so the opening shot of the last nightmare is essentially going to be John Tate and Officer Williams walking out of the prison to Lauren and Vanessa waiting outside. And that's all I'm going to say, and I'm a big fan of that. I love the Halloween films that are able to do that. That's what I love about Halloween and Halloween 2. That's what I love about Halloween 2018 and Halloween Kills. I think when you pick up right where a film leaves off, it already immerses the fans, like, okay, like now we're just jumping right into the next chapter. And the thing that I love about The Last Nightmare is that we don't have to spend a whole lot of time setting up characters, because you watch the first film, that's the setup. Now in The Last Nightmare, we can just start having a lot of fun with Michael Myers and all that stuff. So, that's what I'm excited about.
Yeah, I like that idea as well. When you watch Halloween 1 and 2 together, it feels like the one night. What is the one night? H18, Halloween Kills, it's a one night as well. This is kind of off topic, but kind of on topic. When you watch the Texas Chainsaw Massacre series, you've got almost every movie in that franchise takes place in a different universe or a different place, a different year, and nothing feels coherent. But then when you watch the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2003, and then you watched its prequel from 2006. So the only two movies in that whole entire franchise that has a coherent storyline with the same characters. And that's why I enjoy those two more than the rest of the franchise, because they've got a story within them. And that's why I like Halloween 1 and 2 together. I think Halloween 2, I know it's one of your favorites. I think it only works because of Halloween 1. And obviously Halloween Kills only works because of Halloween 2018. So when you're doing your Last Nightmare, hopefully then when people go to see The Last Nightmare, they might go, do you know what, I've not seen Haddonfield Nightmare, we'll watch that first. Is that kind of, do you want people to do that first? Because obviously you need to see the Haddonfield Nightmare before you see The Last Nightmare. Otherwise people will be like, what's happening? Have you got, do you know that people might actually go into The Last Nightmare first? Is there something that you can do to say to them, well, don't watch that yet, watch this first?
Yes. So actually, I've talked to my team about that. And when we're cutting together the movie, like in the beginning of the Haddonfield Nightmare, we have our disclaimer that says, you know, this is a fan film, yada, yada, yada. So we're going to have our disclaimer in the opening as well. And then after that, we're going to have another card that fades in that says, also note, this is a sequel. It's going to have its own card, so that way people can see it. So
Right.
It'll say this is a sequel to the 2021 film, The Haddonfield Nightmare. Highly advise watching that first and then following up with this. So that way people can not be confused with why these two characters are coming out and there's not really a whole lot of setup, you know, and no matter how many times I say that on the stream, posted in the comments, no matter how many times I say it, there's going to be those people that do it. And then I'm going to, you know, have to remind them, hey, watch or make sure you're paying attention to the opening or make sure you're reading cautiously, you know. So yeah, that's definitely something that I plan on doing to make sure that people are aware of that too. So, and hopefully anybody that has seen Haddonfield Nightmare the night that Last Nightmare premieres on YouTube, hopefully people in the chat are catching that as well. And people are like, hey, like he said, go, like, I'm hoping that the audience is able to catch those, you know, respectfully idiots for doing that. So
yeah, well, I don't think there's going to be many people not have seen the Haddonfield Nightmare anyway. I think obviously there'll be a few people that will watch it and think what's happening. You'll know this yourself, but the Haddonfield Nightmare has officially got over 1 million views on YouTube. Did you think it was going to get to a million views?
No. I did not actually. I didn't even know that it was going to do as well as it did the night that it came out, because within the first like 24 hours, the movie had over 10,000 views. And I was like, what? I was blown away. And so was Peter. Peter was texting me the whole next day and he was just watching the count go up. And he was actually going in and anybody that was commenting on the film, he was going in, you know, all the good ones he was, you know, saying thank you to, and all the bad ones he came up with some sort of sarcastic comment to post with it as well. And that's what I love about Peter, man, is that like he shows up and he really is a professional, man. Like, I mean, he pushed me as a director too. Like there were nights like where we were out there and I mean, he was pushing me sometimes too, but you know, it was a team effort. And, you know, by the time we all saw the movie for the premiere, it was so cool because we did like, I think you remember seeing me posting about the premiere event that we did for it. Yeah. And like it was a completely packed house with friends, family, just people that wanted to buy tickets to come out and see it. And I mean, it really was an outstanding event to see it with everybody on the big screen and all that. And people loved it. So, you know, I thought that it was really cool. And obviously, yes, there are people that don't like Haddonfield Nightmare also. And I mean, that's fine. I'm not like saying you have to like all of the work. I mean, just like the Halloween franchise, not everybody loves every movie, right? Yeah. And I do want to highlight really quickly, one of the biggest criticisms I see is that the movie just isn't violent enough. And I'm like sitting there and I'm like, that's such an interesting critique in my opinion, because it's like the first Halloween isn't very violent. And again, the reason that we had to limit the violence in the Haddonfield Nightmare is because of budget stuff. Like, you know, like there's things that we wanted to do that we ended up having to not do. But then about halfway through, I was like, okay, the vibe is that Michael this is the first sighting of him in over 20 years, right?
Yeah.
So the vibe of the movie is Michael just getting back into the swing of things. So it's like Michael's just getting back into his regular form. That's how I saw it. I was like, maybe people are going to see it like that as well, is that he's older now. So maybe he just wants to do the, all his power right off the bat to kill him quickly. So that way he doesn't have to put up much of a fight. Later on in the movie, he gets whacked upside the head a couple times and takes a few hits. And this is Michael just being rusty. So that's kind of how I saw it, is that Michael is a little rusty after, not being on his A game for over 20 years. And that's what I initially saw. And I think that people got a little comfortable with Michael being as violent as he was in Rob Zombie's Halloween.
Yeah.
Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 for a fact, and then Halloween 2018 came out, obviously, and yeah, he's still a little violent in that, more violent than he was in Halloween 1978 and Halloween, yeah, for sure, because 2018 is just a direct sequel to that, and then Halloween Kills came out, and it was just like, fuck, like,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think that's it's a good point you make about like people saying I don't like it because of the non-violence. That's when we go back to Halloween H20. When I say like to someone, why do you not like H20? And they say, oh, it's because there's a CGI mask in it. And I'm like, okay, that's not a good excuse, but okay. That would annoy me as well if I were you. If somebody says to you, I don't like your movie because there's no violence in it, but I love Halloween in 1978, and you're like, right, so what's the difference? So when you're critiquing a fan film, I'm the same with this one, but when you critique a fan film, you have to critique it as it's a fan film. Not, I can see people watching your movie and other fan films and going, I don't like that because the acting's not good, or I don't like that because it looks cheap. And you're like, well, it's a fan film. This is the budget. We don't have Jamie Lee Curtis. We don't have the Arri or the Red 5 cameras to use. We don't have all these budgets. So it really does annoy me when someone says, I don't like that fan film because the acting's not good. And I'm like, well, you need to critique it on a fan film level. And when I watched the Haddonfield Nightmare, I thought it was excellent. And it's not just because I know you. It's not just because I love Halloween H20. It's a cut above a lot of the rest. The acting, the story itself, and it's a long film. When you see fan films, you get 25-minute fan films, half-an-hour fan films, which are good. But yours is like, was it 80 minutes or so?
Yeah, it's an hour and 20 minutes long. So yeah, 80 minutes.
So it's a long film. So you had to go through almost double of what other fan films have done. Because it's double the length. So there's a lot going for the Haddonfield Nightmare. And when I saw some of the critiques in it, I'm like, that's an unfair critique. You're critiquing it as a Hollywood movie, and you shouldn't do that. How did you, not just yourself and Peter, I know that Peter maybe has a bit of thick skin, but did anyone read some comments that you thought that's not nice, or how did they react to the bad comments?
I mean, before the movie premiered, I did tell everyone to take all the comments with a grain of salt, because it's just people are going to comment on it as it is actually part of the franchise. It's just what the horror community does. I mean, the horror community is the nicest group of people and also the most vulgar group of people that you will ever meet. So, because some of them are so awesome and some of them are just like, if you mess with the fandom in any way, whether it's fan film or Hollywood, they're out for your neck, right? So, I told everybody to take it with a grain of salt. All of you guys did a fantastic job. We all worked our asses off. We have a movie out, and these guys commenting probably don't. So, that's great. And I mean that in respect to the people watching the movie as well, but it's just like, when it comes down to the comments, people are going to like what they like and not like what they don't. So, it's and I told that to the cast and the crew. I just said, I don't want anybody in the comments, like if it's premiering live, I don't want anybody starting fights or anything like that with people in the chat. That's just not how that's not how I like my team to operate. It's like, it's like all I do is I say, thank you for watching. And that's it, because the view is going to help somebody else find it that likely, does like it. So that's how I see things, is that you gotta Just shake it off. And believe me, I've read every single comment, on the Haddonfield Nightmare. And I've taken the notes of the criticism. I've taken notes of what people don't like. I've taken notes of what they might want to see in The Last Nightmare. I've talked to my team about this. It helped us incredibly when we were writing the script for The Last Nightmare, because this time I'm joined along with one of my producing partners, Zach Dion. He co-wrote The Last Nightmare with me, and all I can say is that it's basically 10 times larger than the Haddonfield Nightmare was.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a lot of changes that we make, and it's going to still feel like the same coherent story. But in terms of Michael, we have a new actor playing Michael. He is taller. He's going to be a little stockier, and he's gonna, we got a new mask as well, because obviously John Tate beat him in the face with a crowbar. So we made some updates to the mask and everything. So we've got a lot of fun stuff that we're going to be doing.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the thing. You're going to learn from your mistakes and learn from the criticisms that you're getting. You even mentioned earlier about having that little fan film that you had before that was just filmed on a smartphone.
Yeah.
So it will be good to see your very first film to the Haddonfield Nightmare to The Last Nightmare and see how much it's grown since then. But with all your negative comments, you'll know this yourself. You've had a lot more positive comments. I've read a lot of the comments as well. Mm-hmm. And there's been some amazing comments from all around the horror community as well, which is great. So even though you do get bad ones, it must be a nice feeling to see people comment saying it's great. I love this. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you get all that as well?
Yeah. So I don't care that people don't like the movie, but if people don't like the movie, I'd rather you explain what you don't like about it. Mm-hmm. Like that's just going to help me grow in the next project that we do. Like that's just something that I feel I don't see a lot of. And those that do like the movie also very much, a lot of the comments say exactly what they like about it, and even if they do like the movie, but they have some like tight little nitpicks, that's fine. Again, as long as you're able to say what you didn't like about it, because that's, again, I take notes. I take either written notes or mental notes as to, okay, like if I'm writing the sequel, like, okay, like I can kind of go back, and obviously I'm going to make the movie that I want to make. You can't please everybody. As a content creator, as an artist, as a filmmaker, you can't please everybody. At the end of the day, you need to make what you want to see, right? So that's just kind of like, I do think about it, because I mean, that's what really was one of my biggest struggles with writing the Haddonfield Nightmare is, I think I remember I sent you like I think I was at like the 12-page mark, and I think I sent you just where John Tate came in, and then you didn't want to see anymore.
I didn't want to see,
Yeah. So, but I asked for some feedback, and I think I was asking for that simply because, I wanted to make sure I was on a good track, and I sent it to a couple people, just even within the horror community that I trust to, keep their mouth shut, obviously. But it was a very stressful process, because I was sitting there and I'm trying to please as many fans as I can. And then at one point I was like, you know what? Not going to do this. Excuse me. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to stress myself out about pleasing people. I'm going to make the movie that I want to make. And if people love it, that's great. And if they don't like it, then hey, that's great. Also, if they watch it and don't like it, that's double great, because they had a chance to watch it in full and then say that they didn't like it. So, that's just advice for any writer out there that's looking at doing something like this. Make the movie that you want to make. It saves you a world of hurt, a world of stress, a world of everything. So yeah.
I don't know if you know that Chad's in the room, but he said stockier. Oh.
Yeah. Yep.
you just called him stocky.
I did. Well, he's got bigger shoulders. He's got broader shoulders, so
he's got the George P. Wilbur Halloween.
Not that big, not that big, but and I did tell him, I was like, I know he's going to be a great Michael Myers, because he takes all these notes really well also. So
on your Haddonfield Nightmare and The Last Nightmare, we spoke about this before the chat, but you went to Halloween H20.
Yeah.
at the weekend as well. Did you meet anyone who saw the movie? Did you speak to anyone about your movie?
I didn't speak to anybody about my movie. No, I
No?
didn't know. Everybody that I met had said that they watched the channel. I didn't specifically ask them about. I don't know. I'm not that kind of person, man. I'm not
No.
that kind of person
No,
to
neither
just
am I.
bring
I
up,
don't. Yeah.
actually, I will say Jeff Meacham from Jeff Meacham Network. He actually did watch my movie, and we were talking a little bit about. So I lied actually just then. So yeah, we did talk a little bit about that, and he was talking about how he didn't like Halloween Resurrection and was saying that Haddonfield Nightmare was the proper way to do a sequel to Halloween H20. And that makes me happy when I hear that, man. I'm happy that people are finding enjoyment in this movie because it was a bitch and a half to put together. And when it finally got done, I was so happy to see the comments and everything. And I mean, looking into this next one, I already know it's going to be a bitch and a half to make, but I feel like I'm more prepared going into this one, having done it already the first time,
Yeah.
so that's definitely something. That's definitely something I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, no, definitely. When do you when are you going to start The Last Nightmare, and when do you think you're going to have it ready? I know that's obviously that can change like the wind, but have you got a projected date of when you're going to do these things?
Yeah, our aim is late next year to get it out. So we're in early stages right now. We have a few things that we're working on that we want to showcase to some fans, and then we want to turn to Indiegogo one last time to try and get some finishing funds. Hopefully, people will help us out based on what they see. Because when we did this last campaign, I mean, we did a campaign last year that wasn't really successful at all. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that we were working on an original short film that hadn't been out yet, that we had crowdfunded as well. So people were like, well, where the heck is this movie? And that was just something I looked at strategy wise as something I'm like, okay, maybe we shouldn't do that again. And then we did one this year, did a lot better. We raised about like $6,000 or something like that for this. And then we want to showcase a few things before we turn to Indiegogo again for a finishing funds campaign. And then hopefully what people see is what really drags them into what it is that we're doing.
Yeah.
So there's a plan in place. I'm really excited about it. I cannot wait to get started on this thing, man, because it's gonna be so much fun. Production is my favorite piece of any sort of project because it's building the relationships, it's being on set, it's the craft of the movie. Quite frankly, my least favorite process is what I'm in right now, and that's pre-production. Pre-production sucks on every level.
I say I know, but I couldn't even imagine. Like in Scotland, we have no one to turn to say, do you know what? Let's make a fan film together, or let's make a movie together. We don't have that kind of infrastructure in our country where we've got lots of people that just want to make horror films because it's quite rare. So it's good that you've got people around you, whether they're near or far. You've got people around you that you've got this network of people that friends, family, whatever. They can make fan films. That I can't do that. And even if I could do that, it would be stressful. I can imagine. I've done little mini films with my kids because they love to make little films, and even that's stressful making a 3-minute video with a child. But I couldn't even. That's why when I critique a fan film, I can understand that it's hard to do because I wouldn't even know where to begin. I don't even know how to write a script. I don't know how to set it all up. All I know is I know how to take photographs. I know how to do lighting and videos. But to put all that together, it must be like, was there ever any points where you're filming it going, what am I doing here? Or do I know what I'm doing next?
Oh, absolutely. It was basically, I mean, at one point I was so low on it because we did 3 different production periods. We did a fall 2020 shoot. So that was like right in the midst of COVID. We started in September of 2020. We shot basically every weekend leading through the first weekend of November. Then we took a winter break. We came back in April of 2021 and filmed for 2 straight weeks, so 14 straight days. And then we took another break, and then we came back in July in some of the freaking hottest nights that you can think of. And that was when we shot the finale at the prison. So over the summer, like we saw the prison during 2 different periods. We saw the prison in April when it was still pretty chilly. And the first encounter between John and Michael on the road was shot at my former university that I attended. And I knew the police there. I knew the police department. So it was kind of like John Tate knowing the police officers like on campus, basically. But what they did, because that was shot on a very pretty heavy road with traffic. Like if we didn't close that, traffic would have been going in and out of that road all night. But what they did for us is they were like, hey, do you want to block off that road? I'll put my car out there. And he sat in his car out there for like 4.5 hours while we shot that scene. And then he put a police rope like on where it was closed off. So that we can shoot on the whole road. So they closed the entire road for us. So that way we can get what we needed to without any sort of distractions, which was awesome.
Yeah.
So but the point is that when we filmed that, it was freezing that night. It was like 40 something degrees. It was cold. Like I had my hoodie on along with one of our Haddonfield police jackets on, like while I was working, and Connor Whitman was playing the Shape that night. For that fight, and him and Peter would sit in Pete's car with the heat blasting while we were setting everything up. So it was really cold that night. And then in July for the final fight, it was like 90 degrees outside at night, and that heat is coming into this thick walls of the prison, making it so much hotter because there's no AC. It's abandoned. The place is closed down, so there's nothing in there.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was hot. So all the sweat that you see on Peter in the final fight is all his actual, like that's all sweat because of how hot it is in there. And he has to wear his jacket and everything like that because that's what he was in. So, you know, that it was just insane. But like about midway through the project, I was like, I don't know if I can continue this. I don't know if I could do it. And then I saw somebody, it was after we released the new teaser, teaser number 2, that I saw so many people getting excited about it. And I was just like, all right, we got to keep going. And that truly is it, man. It really is the people that really were excited to see it. The people that, you know, I knew we couldn't let down. I'm like, well, we've spent their money. We've started shooting. We have teasers. We can't not finish it. And, you know, so that was the most important thing to me, is that we did it because we crowdfunded. People obviously supported us for it, and we wanted to make sure that we got it out. And that's the same thing with all of our projects. And that's been my motto from there on out, is if we say we're going to start something and we start crowdfunding for it and we take people's money, we're definitely going to finish this damn thing. I don't care what it takes. So yeah,
like again, that it's all sounds so stressful. Obviously at the end of it, once it's done, you can sit back and relax and just enjoy it, and obviously see all the views coming in. And like I said, you get over a million views for the movie. And when you look at other fan films, there's not a lot of fan films that actually get over a million, is there?
I think Halloween Night did, which is another really good fan film. Halloween Night is a really good one. That's by JP DeStefano and his studio. I think it's Thunder Knock Studios.
Thunder Knock,
yeah. That's a great group of guys too. You guys should definitely go support that if you guys haven't seen Halloween Night. 60 minutes long. It's great. That's got over 1 million views. I think the Coleman's Halloween fan film just got over 1 million views as well. So I think those are the 3 that I've seen get over 1 million.
Right. But it's still quite rare, though. I've seen a lot of fan films that get like 4,000 views, 10,000 views. You know, so it's it's quite unique that you get over 1 million, because it must be. Did you have a target of how many people you think or want to see this movie?
I mean, I was thinking that like around in a few years, it was going to be sitting at like 10 or 15,000. I didn't know it was going to do that in one night. That wasn't like, what I thought, but I was happy that people showed up, man. I was happy that like, as it premiered live on YouTube, people were in the chat and people were watching it and all that stuff. So it was great to sit there and, have a couple beers and sit there and watch as people commented on it and all that stuff. It was just really surreal, because like we had seen it in a live audience the week prior, which was really cool in itself. But seeing it with people actually commenting on it, and even my supervisor at work at the time had a whole Halloween party at his house that night,
Nice.
doing the premiere for it. And he attended the premiere actually the week prior as well. And so that's what pushed him to be like, hey, I'm having people over Friday and we're going to sit there and we're going to eat, drink, and watch this. And I was like, hey, that's great, man. So, and he was in the chat too, like while it was playing. So it was just really cool to see everybody that came out to support it. And I'm very much looking forward to doing that again with The Last Nightmare. So,
yeah. Well, that kind of leads us on to the bridge between your fan films and new Halloween news that's coming out.
yes.
So with your fan film, hopefully, let's assume that everything goes fine and you're going to release it next year. Let's say it comes out next year. I think what might benefit it, which probably what benefited your last film, is we've got current Halloween films at the moment. You had the Halloween trilogy with David Gordon Green, and then next year, I'm guessing you'll probably be hoping that there's going to be another Halloween movie next year or a Halloween TV show next year, or maybe at least news that is coming, so that people are searching for Halloween. And as they're searching for Halloween, they come across The Last Nightmare. So coinciding with other movies and TV shows with your fan film helps, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, it definitely does, because with the current Halloween projects, I mean, honestly, it was interesting when Halloween Kills was coming out. It was interesting to see that people didn't really like that movie when after the first weekend, or it had a lot of negative feedback. So I was like, oh my God, that can be really good for us, because I'm like, hey, you didn't like Kills, come see the sequel to Halloween H20,
Yeah.
And some people, and a lot of people seem to really enjoy that movie. So, and I was on a lot of channels around that time talking about it. And, the people that had me on had said that they enjoyed it as well. And it was just really cool to talk about the differences between Haddonfield Nightmare and Halloween Kills. And a lot of that was story, is that like the story with Haddonfield Nightmare, which is something that I wanted to make sure was believable and that, made sense for the time that it was setting in. And that's just something that it was like they were so interested in story in Halloween 2018, and then they didn't carry on that story into Halloween Kills. I found that really wild. And then, with Halloween Ends, it's like they brought back story and it was interesting, but it was just a randomly thrown in story that could have been another anthology piece, So
Yeah, I think all the 2018 Kills and Ends felt like completely different movies. And not only did they feel like different movies through the story, they looked aesthetically different as well. And I don't know if that's what David Gordon Green was going for with his Halloween trilogy. Was he trying to be different in every movie? I think he did mention something like that. Like, he's like, I was trying to make it a little bit different, but obviously it didn't come across to certain people about that. Before we move on to the more Halloween stuff, we'll just wrap up with your fan film stuff. We won't just stop there. But what I'm going to do for the guys who've just entered the chat, or if you've been here from the beginning, I will leave all the links down below to Braden's information on your Haddonfield Nightmare if you've not seen it, and obviously information leading up to The Last Nightmare as well. So if anyone wants to help out in any way possible, then please get in contact with Braden. I'll leave all the links down below to Braden's channel and stuff. So when Braden, again, if you want to start back up your next Indiegogo, then hopefully we can get people getting crowdfunding for that as well to try and help push that over the edge to make this thing happen for you.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. I do appreciate that.
Yeah, not a problem. And like I said, if you haven't seen it, guys, the Haddonfield Nightmare, I personally do, and this is no joke, I personally do like this movie better than Halloween Resurrection, a lot better. The story between H2O and the Haddonfield Nightmare just flows a lot easier and more realistically than H2O to Resurrection. Resurrection just felt like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's hard to comment on that, to be honest. But yeah, check it out, guys. If you haven't seen it, if you like fan films, then please check out the Haddonfield Nightmare. But if you want to move on with this, guys, and we'll talk about Halloween, the movies and or TV shows. Braden, I know you've seen the news of Halloween and everything that's happened. You were obviously there at the H45. Did you find out anything else other than what we found out online at the convention?
So I did not end up sitting in on the Malika Cod panel. That was when I took a little lunch break between some of the panels. Apparently, he did hint at a possible Halloween video game coming very soon, which is really cool. And then apparently if they can get the now this is just stuff that's been going online now. Okay. Like before I say this next sentence, this is just stuff that people have been talking about online, is that if the actors strike can get wrapped up by Halloween. I know the writer's strike is officially wrapped up over here, but if the actors strike can get wrapped up, we could potentially find out something by Halloween. And that's been something that Malika Cod has said. If you read some of the sources, Bloody Disgusting's been following it pretty heavily, that we can potentially get something by Halloween. I honestly can't believe that. Like, I thought that we were going to get like a 3-year gap between we saw any sort of Halloween news again. But apparently they don't want to wait that long. So,
yeah, I found it strange as well. Obviously, it's a welcome surprise because obviously I love Halloween anyway and I love talking about it. But I was surprised. I thought we were going to get at least 5 years, not 5 years until we find things out. I thought we would probably not get another Halloween film until maybe 2027 or something like that. But news leading up to it would be sooner. But so soon, and it doesn't mean that if we get news this year of a new Halloween film or TV show, it doesn't mean that we're going to get a new Halloween film or TV show next year. It could take a few years to, go into production, film, post-production, and be completed. So you could still be looking at least 2025 by the time something comes out. So it's 3 years could be the gap between ends and whatever comes next. What do you prefer? Do you want both? Do you want a movie and a TV show, or do you want just one or the other?
So I think that if the movie and TV show takes place in 2 different timelines, then yes, I think that would give fans the best of both worlds of Halloween content to enjoy. Apparently, this is per One Take News on Twitter. I'm not sure how entirely close anyone to their sources to the production or to the studios or anything, but per them, apparently one of Akkad's projects that he's trying to get moving forward on is a 6-episode TV series that takes place within the Halloween 3 timeline. Yeah. So and I would be a fan of that. I would be curious to see where they took that, and if we got that and a movie from somebody else, because right now A24 seems to be very interested in the television rights because the television rights are cheaper than the film rights. So, which is honestly pretty shocking to me because TV series are spread out a bit more than movies are. So, when the TV rights and A24 is looking at that, and I'm like, okay, that's pretty interesting. So I think A24 could do a really good job with if they're going to be the ones to do the Halloween 3 story. I think they'd be great. In terms of film, I think that because they're not going to do, and I've said this online too, they're not going to do a movie for Halloween 3. It's not in the cards.
Nah.
They're not going to do a sequel to Halloween 3. I'm sorry for any Halloween fan that's out there. If we're getting a Halloween 3 story, it's going to be in the form of a television series. That's the only way that will work. Anything else, though, I think is just going to be bonus for Halloween fans. I would love to see a movie with Michael Myers, a different story, like maybe like a new, fresh reboot, which is what I thought Halloween Returns was. I've read that script and it's fantastic. I mean, I thought that was great. Michael's definitely a bit over the top brutal in the movie, but it's like there are some stuff that I feel like is a little extra for Michael. Like I think it's during the finale scene. It's like with one of these characters and it's almost like he's like fighting them completely. And I'm just like, that doesn't sound like something that like Michael Myers would do. But I think that for the most part, it's a great script. Yeah, I thought that would have been a great way. So if we can get something like Halloween Returns with a Silver Shamrock TV series, I think that would be awesome.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of similar. I've got a video coming out in a couple of days that's scheduled about what I want to see. And just a kind of little snippet of it is I do want a movie franchise still with Michael Myers. I don't feel like Michael Myers fits in a TV show unless he's just there a couple of times, but not as the main focus. I'd rather see other characters evolve through the TV shows. And they've got an opportunity here for us to show our favorite characters. Let's say we see a character called John Smith and he's our favorite character in the show. They've got an opportunity to show him in the movies because we're like, oh, there's John Smith from the TV show. I love that guy. And you can do the same with the movies. If you've got secondary characters in the movies that you'd like to see more of, maybe they can appear in the TV shows later on, be part of the same universe, but not relying on each other too much. But having Michael Myers in the movies and having secondary lesser characters in the TV shows that you can flesh out, because you don't have a lot of time to flesh them out in the movies, try and flesh them out in the shows so they can benefit by borrowing from each other. So I'll talk more about that in the video that's coming up, but that's basically what I'd like to see, the shows being separate but in the same universe. Do you think a universe could work with something like Halloween, similar to the Conjuring universe?
Yeah, I think that it could if they do it the right way. Obviously, The Conjuring is a paranormal, whereas Halloween, then, if they did decide to do a TV series with a movie in one universe, I mean, that means that if they're going to include Halloween 3, that means that Silver Shamrock is actually a factory where these kids get these masks from, and it's a corporation within the already embedded franchise. So I think that's an interesting way to go about it. But could they combine? Maybe it could be just a bunch of odd stuff happens. Like you've got Michael Myers, the slasher. You've got the company that's doing witchcraft. You've got maybe something else can come up. But I don't know, because if they do anything else, it's going to, again, be taking a giant risk, right? Outside of the content that we know.
Yeah.
So because people, I feel like, that love Halloween 3, they're going to love the source material for a TV series if they do the Silver Shamrock stuff, because that's just stuff that they know. And I was watching an old interview with John Carpenter a few days ago, just to kind of like hear his thoughts on a few things. And he was saying that anything that is like nowadays, it's like a reboot, or nowadays you can also apply this to the requel, is that people go to these things because it's a title that they've heard before in the past. So they're like, oh, this is going to be in theaters again. I'm familiar with this property. I'll do this. This is kind of the same thing with Halloween 3, is that people know Halloween 3 as Season of the Witch. At least horror fans do, right? Horror fans know Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. If they do a TV series on it and it's an anthology series focusing on that, people are going to like that because people have grown to love the movie. So, it's familiar to them. If they do anything else outside of that, that's new, there's where you set up for a lot more criticism and feedback and, or I should say backlash, not feedback. But that's where you set yourself up for that. And then if they're doing a movie, they better damn well have Michael Myers in it for the full movie. Otherwise, people are going to be pissed off once again. So.
Yeah. That's the thing though, that they hardly ever learn from the mistakes. It's almost like when you get a new fresh director in, they've got their own new vision, and most of the time they'll let that director do what they want, especially David Gordon Green. I feel like David Gordon Green didn't get a lot of studio involvement, producers coming to say to him, no, you need to do this and you need to do that. It felt like he had his own way most of the time. So he had his own creative input. And what we saw in the final product is all David Gordon Green. So maybe you need someone in who knows horror, who knows the franchise. Now, I like David Gordon Green. I think he's a good director. He directed Pineapple Express, which was a great movie. He did that one with Jake Gyllenhaal called Stronger, which is a good movie. So he does different genres, but the Halloween franchise felt like it was his entry to the horror franchise or the horror genre. And maybe he was just put himself in the deep end too soon. And then obviously going from Halloween to The Exorcist, a sequel to one of the greatest horror films of all time, then he's backed himself into a corner here. So I think if you're going to give us a new director, give us someone who's got experience in that field. I've always said that David Robert Mitchell would be a great director for Halloween. He directed It Follows. Have you seen It Follows?
I actually haven't. That's on my list to watch. It's on my list. It's on my list to watch.
It's honestly, it's in my top 5 horror movies of all time. And it's quite rare for a newish horror movie to be up there. But, oh my God, right. I wish I was you right now. Having the opportunity to see this movie for the first time again, it'll give you chills. It's such a great movie. And when you watch it, you'll know the inspiration, the John Carpenter inspiration straight from the very beginning. The cinematography, John Carpenter. The direction, John Carpenter. The score, John Carpenter. Everything about It Follows is John Carpenter. And the guy loves John Carpenter. The people who've done the score, Disaster Piece, they love John Carpenter as well. But if you ever watch it, you'll understand the inspiration behind Halloween. And it's amazing. I don't know what else. I don't want to spoil it for you, but you need to see that movie.
Okay, I will add that to my October watch. That's perfect because Destiny and I are going to be together for quite a good period of time in the next week and a half or so. So I'll make sure that we watch that. I think that's when she's wanted to watch it with me too. So
has she seen it before?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, right.
So,
okay. Don't let her spoil it for you then.
Oh, I won't.
No, definitely not. We'll jump into the chat, see what the chat's saying. I saw someone talking about the game. Yeah, Big Al says a Halloween video game. That's an interesting idea. What do you have a PlayStation or do you have a Xbox?
I have an Xbox. Yeah,
Xbox. So I'm a PlayStation man, and I don't play a lot of video games, but I downloaded the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game, and it's one of those games that it's fun to begin with, but as you play the same thing over and over again, it feels like you're just repeating yourself. It was the same with the Evil Dead game and Friday the 13th. They're the same kind of playing style. Would you play a Halloween game that would be similar to them?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I like the open world. I mean, because really these games are like Dead by Daylight. Dead by Daylight is like the one where it's like you're walking around as a character and it's basically just trying to survive each of the maps. You've got different tools that you can get and upgrade on stuff, and I like that. So that's kind of like what Evil Dead was like earlier this year, I think, which they're already done with. I find that
they're finished.
I find that weird. I wonder if that's going to be the same thing with Texas Chainsaw, if it's gonna fizzle away here, once the next. Because I do think that. I mean, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, really cool. I mean, I do like the game quite a bit, and it scares me quite a bit, like when the music starts building up and Leatherface is right there. Yeah. So I like the game, but I think that if you get a Halloween game out, man, people love Halloween. So I feel like that a Michael Myers game would surpass a Leatherface game. But that's just my opinion, and that could also be because I'm biased because Michael Myers is my favorite slasher of all time. So, it's like...
No, I agree. I think it would, definitely. I think if they bring a Halloween game out that's the exact same as the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it would sell more, I think, because Halloween is a bigger franchise. But what I would like to see in a game is not only what they do in the Texas Chainsaw. I'd like to see that more open world with similar to Grand Theft Auto. So you would go into Haddonfield and you can go Laurie or you can go Michael or whoever and just walk about, just hang about the streets and walk about the famous bits of the movies. And if you're Michael, you can just go about stalking anyone. Just free world, steal cars, sort of like Grand Theft Auto as well.
Dude,
I'd like to see more of that in a game.
Michael can come up to a car and just pull someone out of the car and stab him and then get in and drive because he drives. So, it's
Exactly.
like, and you could have the woman go, hey, bam, like, that would be really cool, honestly.
I think so. And if you go with the victims, they do the same. They just walk about the streets. They can't steal anything, but they walk about. And then if they see Michael Myers in the distance, then they'll have to run away and stuff. I think that'd be a really cool idea. It's not just like what they do with the Texas Chainsaw, but give it something else and even give them a story mode so you can play the story of Halloween 1978, the story of Halloween 4 1988, where you play as little Jamie. The world's their oyster. So I think if they take their time with a game like that, then it could be great. And obviously with the name alone, it would sell by the bucket load.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for a fact.
Mm-hmm. Question for you. Byron Weaver says, have you read Taking Shape 2?
Yes, I have that book. I love that book. I think that it's such an interesting insight to some of the different ideas that we've seen in Halloween. Mm-hmm. Some of them are really good. Some of them are not so good. But, that it's the interesting part. It's no matter what, it's interesting to see where people take different characters, and it's interesting to see their ideas. The concept of even Rob Zombie's Halloween 3D. I liked, because I read that script, I liked part of that movie. And then it just got, part of the script, I should say. And then it just got fucking wild. I was just like, what? I was like, what is going on right now? So, I think that it's interesting to kind of see all of the lost sequels that we never ended up getting.
Yeah.
And again, just some of them are so ridiculous that it's like, I think it was Halloween 666 where Mustafa Akkad, I think that it says he read the script and he threw it across the office, because he was so frustrated with just how it was. So
yeah, I'm currently reading it just now. What I've been doing, I've been reading a chapter, and if it's interesting enough, I'll do a video on it on the channel. So my latest one was about Halloween H25 that was supposed to be set right after Resurrection with Busta Rhymes back again.
Yeah.
And it was supposed to bring all the movies together. So like John Tate was going to be in it, Sheriff Mika was going to be in it, some of the survivors from previous films, and we were going to find out that Jimmy was Jamie Lloyd's dad. So would be revealed that he was Jimmy Lloyd from Halloween 2 because we didn't know his last name. So he was going to be the husband of Laurie. They had a kid called Jamie. They had another kid called John. So all the stories would come together. It sounded like a good idea, but it got a little bit silly near the end of it. But the Taking Shape's brilliant. Some of the ideas are wacky, but so interesting. That's so funny. We've got Susanna Meir says, aren't you making an urban legend fan film, Barry? I am and I'm not. I'm not doing like an Indiegogo thing. I've not got like a production team. It's just me and my family. Slowly but surely, I've got a little script coming on. I just designed the Pendleton University logo from scratch. I had to do it from scratch because there's no high resolution images of the logo, so I had to do stuff like that. I've got my outfit, and the script's kind of finished, so I'll get there eventually. But because I'm doing it myself with my own money, I've got no. I'm not as stressed as Braden would be, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I mean, even with this one, man, it's getting a little stressful, but it's all right. That's why I try to finish all my work by a certain period of time during the day. So that way I cut it off and So,
Yeah. Byron's got another question for you, if you want to answer this one. What type of marketing can we expect from The Last Nightmare? Obviously, you've got your Indiegogo, but are you doing anything else other than that?
yeah, all of our stuff is going to be on. I promote the stuff on my channel. I promote it on the social media and everything, on my social media. So you're going to see a pretty similar form of marketing that you did with the Haddonfield Nightmare. And that's simply to not spoil anything. If you watch the trailers for Haddonfield Nightmare, very brief, and you know just what you need to know to get yourself invested, which is all I'm interested in. I'm just interested in giving very brief snapshots of what you're going to see in the movie in order to avoid any sort of spoilers. I don't want to spoil it because I want you guys to be able to sit down and watch it. Whereas, we've seen trailers in the past, and this isn't just a Universal Blumhouse thing. This is just like movies tend to spoil big key points before the movie is even out. So even in the new Exorcist trailer, which is, I guess, Universal Blumhouse, Barry, I don't know if you've seen it, if you've watched the latest. I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to spoil it for anybody that hasn't. But there's something that I feel like should have just been saved for the movie. Like, I'm just sitting there and I was like, that's so disappointing to me that it's like I'm sitting in a theater, and I tried to avoid it too. But when I saw The Nun 2 in theaters, we got the trailer before. And so I was sitting there and I was watching it, and I tried to avoid it, but there was a big spoiler at the end of that trailer, and I was like, Universal, like,
You know what? I don't know why they do it. Like the Halloween trilogy trailers all had something in it that could have been left for the movie. I know that they want to sell as much of the film as possible to their audience, and I know that maybe half the audience that are watching trailers won't pick up on certain things, which is fine. But the real avid moviegoer that loves these films will pick it out. They'll be like, "Oh, why are you showing this?" I don't want to say either. I've not seen the movie yet, but there was I don't know if it was a TV spot or a featurette about the Exorcist Believer, and there was something that happened in that TV spot, and I was like, "Why? Why did you show that?" That's something that I wouldn't want to know happens until the movie. So I think I'm going to go and see it on Saturday, and I just know that I'm going to be prepared for a specific scene that I seen in the TV spot, and then when I see it, I'll be like, there's the thing that happened. And I don't know about you, but when I see stuff happen in a trailer that it doesn't give much away, but because you've seen these types of movies before, you know what it means and what's going to happen because of what you see in a trailer. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm just like, you need to hide certain things from people because we can see what's going to happen from the certain things that are happening in the trailer. And most of the time we're right. There was a trailer I saw for a movie tonight or today for, what's it called again? It's a Wonderful Knife. Did you see that?
Oh, yeah. No, I haven't watched the trailer yet, but I know it's coming.
Right. It looks great, but there's things in that trailer that I thought, you should have left that for the movie. I don't know if that means you don't want to watch the trailer, but there's certain things in that I'm like, you should have left that for the movie. You should have left that for the movie. So it's hard for. It's good for you because you decide what goes in your trailer, whereas David Gordon Green doesn't decide what goes in his trailer. It's the studio that decides what goes in the trailer. And he might look at it and go, "Oh, please don't put that in there." And they'll be like, "I don't care what you say. This will sell. So we're putting it in there." So you need to be cautious about it. And that's what's good about your trailers. You can choose yourself.
Yeah, unless you're a very specific director like James Wan or Christopher Nolan or somebody in Hollywood that has that type of wager and power with studios, then you're likely going to have absolutely zero say when it comes to Hollywood productions as to how your movie is marketed. And that's because they've got different trailer outhouses that they approach. So they pay quite a few different outhouses to, put together a trailer and then they see the one that's the best in their opinion, and that's the one that they end up running with, even if it's got spoilers. But just because it's the better trailer, that's the one that will end up running. So
yeah, I think James Cameron, I think he actually directs trailers for his movies as well. So I think he takes specific scenes that he knows that he wants to show in a trailer, and he films that for a trailer as well. So not only does he direct the movie, he gets a trailer sorted out. So he's got he's probably got like 99% of the say of what goes into his trailers as well. But again, that's James Cameron. His movies make $2 billion every time. So
yeah, exactly. And so again, James Cameron, another one that has very specific power over studios. Dude, he has power over Disney. Like, that's crazy. So yeah, I mean, that unless you're, again, James Cameron or James Wan or Christopher Nolan or Quentin Tarantino, you have no say as to what goes into your trailers. And I don't even know if James Wan has that much power, honestly. So yeah, I have no idea.
he probably does in specific areas. If he's directing a horror movie, they'll probably ask for his advice. If he's directing Aquaman 2, they're probably like, nah, we'll decide what goes in the trailer. He'll probably won't have much of a say in that.
I don't even think he cares, honestly.
Nah, I don't think so. I think he's probably contracted to do that, and he's out there trying to go back to horror. Wayne Turner makes a good point. He says Scream 5 and 6 trailers showed too much. I worked out the killers from 5 trailer. 6 showed Gail's first Ghostface call, train attack, apartment attack, store attack. Yeah, to me, I don't think it gave away the killers in the movie, but it gave away a lot of the scenes that we were expecting to see in Scream 6 especially. Did you find that when you watched Scream 6 trailer? Like, they showed you a lot of the scenes in that trailer?
Yeah, I thought that, and I love Scream 6, don't get me wrong, but yeah, there was one scene in particular that I know I wish I would have saved for the movie. In Gail's apartment scene in particular, it's when she turns and she says, you know, you're like the 10th guy to try this, right? And then the conversation goes on, but don't cut and show her boyfriend walking back and then see ghosts. Like, that should be a movie. Like, oh my gosh. Like,
yeah.
Like, holy shit, he's right there. Now, is it good? Now, this is kind of like a double-edged sword, because is it good for marketing? Absolutely it is. But when you watch the movie, you know it's coming. And, you know, that's like, I feel like that would have served much better, even though it got a gasp from some of our, you know, audience when they were watching the movie. They just maybe didn't see the trailer. But if you're somebody that watches trailers, like, especially of big movies, like that first trailer when they come out, then yeah, that is a moment where I wish that they would have saved. And I even wish that they would have saved the shotgun kill for the movie as well. Like, right off the bat, I'm like, hey, really cool kill, but we know it's coming now. So
yeah, I was going to say that there. Like you said, it's good for marketing purposes to see Ghostface with the shotgun, but could you imagine they didn't show that and you're expecting him to go in with a knife, and then all of a sudden he picks up the shotgun, and you see that for the first time in the cinema as you're watching the movie? You'd be like, whoa, holy shit, this guy means business here. So I think there's a lot of things you should leave out the trailers, but for marketing purposes, I can understand why they would want to kind of show them. But it's a shame, because there are people who will pick up on a lot of things for trailers. And like me, I go through trailers like a fine-tooth comb, and I find things that I'm like, oh, don't show that. But unfortunately, they show everything, to be honest, which is rubbish.
Exactly. Hopefully next time Halloween rolls around, they do better with marketing and not showing some stuff. So,
well, that's another point I want to make. I know that, well, I personally don't think the A24 is going to be able to afford the movies, but I don't think it's going to be Blumhouse and Universal for the movies. Do you have a specific studio that you think would be in better hands, or Halloween would be in better hands?
I mean, I definitely like what Paramount's doing with Scream right now. So I think that for a movie, Paramount would be solid. A lot of people are saying no to Paramount because of what they did and the issues that they had with Friday the 13th in the past. But you have to think, though, that was like around the 80s, and that was like when the movies weren't doing that great, or like they weren't getting great reviews or anything like that. So I think it was after the final chapter. The reason it was called the final chapter is because they wanted to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Like so badly. But you guys have to think too, times are different, man. Like it changes, like things change over time, like that you can't really control. So there's a market now for these slashers because they're so popular right now. I mean, look at what freaking Chucky's doing right now. It's on season 3, premiered last night for season 3 for a TV series. And Scream has gotten 2 movies over the last couple of years. Halloween has gotten 3 movies over the last couple of years. Guys, slashers are back, and the classic slashers are back. That's why there's a market right there for it right now, and that's why we're there. And TV series especially is so popular right now. So they're trying to continue these stories with television, and I think Paramount would be really good for Halloween because I like what they're doing as the parent company. Spyglass is technically the ones that are doing the Scream movies, but the distributor is under Paramount Pictures, and it's because that's the studio that's going to get them the most money to market their film and everything like that. So, and also Miramax is owned. I just found this out last week. Miramax is currently owned by Paramount. So this would be an in-house transaction. That's what Sean over at Phantom Empire was saying as well. And I looked it up. Holds up. Yeah, that would have been if Miramax is shopping the rights, why not do it at a studio that, currently, because they could also probably get it for a cheaper deal too if they negotiate properly. So
yeah, I think Paramount as well. I said that in one of my videos that's coming up. Paramount is probably my preferred place, like Paramount and Spyglass. When you watch a movie these days, they've got like 6 studios at the beginning of the movie itself, like Paramount, Spyglass, Miramax, Dimension. You're like, how many studios are involved in this? I think Paramount would probably be the best place. I don't love Scream 6, but it's a solid entry into the Scream franchise, and I like Scream 5 as well. So I think if you bring Halloween over to that, it'll have a different feel, a different flavor. But you need that every time you're releasing a new Halloween reboot. You need it to feel different, but the same at the same time. So I think Paramount's probably the place to go. And you've also got that Spyglass are bigging out Thanksgiving as well. Did you see the trailer for Thanksgiving?
Yes, I think that Thanksgiving looks awesome. It's actually now my most anticipated movie for the remainder of the year. So, I mean, I am excited for Five Nights at Freddy's. I think that could be that could be pretty solid. That is Universal Blumhouse, and it's PG-13. So we're gonna see for that one.
PG-13?
It is PG-13. Yeah.
Oh dear.
So we're gonna see. But yeah, I don't know. Right now, Thanksgiving is currently my most anticipated horror film for the remainder of the year. I'd say that It's a Wonderful Knife and Totally Killer, which I think comes out tomorrow. Totally Killer looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. So, I'm excited for that one.
Well, that's my most anticipated film. My favorite film of all time is Back to the Future. So it's right up my street. Totally Killer.
You and me both, man. Back to the Future is my favorite film of all time as well. So, I got asked that about a week ago by one of my family friends, and they were like, what's your favorite movie of all time? And I was like, Back to the Future. And they were like, really? I was like, yeah. Heck yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Whenever I speak to people about Back to the Future, they're like, I love Back to the Future as well. So I don't think I've met anyone who hates Back to the Future. And if I do, then I think they'll need to check themselves into rehab. Because it's what a film. And I love Back to the Future 2 and 3 as well, but Back to the Future is just the greatest film ever. And even watching it today, it feels like a film that's just been released. It's so smart. It's well directed, well edited. So when I saw the trailer for Totally Killer, I'm just like, whoa, that's Back to the Future right there.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I also like, have you seen Happy Death Day to You?
Oh, yeah. Love that movie.
Yeah, similar vibes to it. It's got a bit of horror, but it's a bit of Back to the Future in it as well, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Wayne,
I was gonna say I got enough time for a few more chat questions or whatnot, but I got to get going. I'm sorry about that.
no, that's okay. It's 2:30 in the morning for me, so I was going to say, just this. I just saw this. Is this right? Wayne Turner says Five Nights at Freddy's is 3 hours long.
So I remember that it was a rumor to be 3 hours. I think the final runtime is an hour 50. Yeah,
Right,
it's an
okay.
hour 50 minutes. So Five Nights at Freddy's is the same runtime as Halloween Ends. So.
Right. Okay. So it's a little bit shorter than 3 hours then.
But it was a rumor at one point that it was going to be 3 hours. Yeah.
Yikes. So I'm kind of looking forward to it as well, but I don't know. I don't know much about Five Nights at Freddy's, but the trailer does intrigue me, so I think I'll definitely check it out. So we've got up with the chat anyway, Braden. So I think it could be time for us to say our goodbyes.
Okay.
So yeah. Whoever's still in the chat just now, guys, like I said before, I'm going to leave Braden's information down below. And if Braden does bring out another Indiegogo or any other information, then I'll come back to this and I'll just edit the description down below if anyone stumbles upon this chat after the fact. But Braden, it was brilliant having you back on again. Definitely need to speak to you again in the future about anything. Obviously, when your movie comes out, we can discuss that. It was great having you back on again. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, always a pleasure, and thank you for having me on. And it was great connecting again. I know, like I said when I started, it was a long time coming, and I'm glad that we were finally able to work this out. I know that we've both got insanely busy schedules. So.
Yeah, I know. I'm glad we got it in October though, because October is the best time to talk about it. But yeah, it's great having you back on. So before you go, Braden, do you want to tell the guys where you are on social media?
Yeah, so you guys can follow me on Twitter at Bat Timmons. I'm on Instagram. If you look up Braden Timmons, there's 2 accounts that come up, but it's the one with the blue check mark that you guys should follow. And then on Facebook, if you just search Braden Timmons, that'll also come up. Happy to add you guys. Love connecting with more people. We do have a podcast each week, so join us in the chat. My girlfriend, Destiny Faulkner, runs that with me. We talk horror and everything. It's a great time. So if you guys stumble upon that live, come on in, say hi. We'd love to have you guys in there.
Perfect. Some of the guys have said as well, they've just found your channel and they're going to subscribe to you, so that's cool. But anyway, guys, if you want to stay back just for a minute, Braden, just so I can say cheerio to you. But anyway, guys, I'm going to go now. So thanks a lot for watching. Thanks for subscribing, and I'll see you all soon. Bye-bye.